The young man is crying. No wonder he's barely 20, if even that. And now, he had the woman he loved killed. Who was she to him? A lover? Maybe a caretaker? It was hard to tell how old she was. I can't shake the image of the spear flying through the air, and that sickening sound it made as it pierced the old man's skull. He was practically already dead, and there was no time for anything else. But that doesn't change anything. That's two now. The first one was a tree, and this one a living corpse, rooted in iron thorns. I don't understand what I see, but I know I've killed two people because I couldn't help them any other way. If it weren't for Sifral, I'd be in a bad place right now. I sit down on the ground and, with trembling hands, pull out my pipe. I feel sick from exhaustion. The other two emerge from the burning manor. Their faces are gray, like stone. Grunaldi wipes his knife on the grass and slowly stands up.
That's all of them,
he says shortly. And the children?
All of them.
The manor is burning. There are no more screams. Does this happen often around here? I ask, setting a pitcher of beer on the table.
The closer you are to home, the more careful a wise man is with his silver.
Grunaldi last word replies.
But even here, it happens that one man buys another a beer.
I'm asking about the moving iron thorns, the apparitions in the cold mist that can kill, wanderers who can encase a manor in living chains, with one word, as I've heard. About people who drown on dry land, turn into stone, or grow into trees. About horses that appear with a thunderclap in the middle of the forest. About talking crows. He pours himself a drink into his horn and drinks silently, then places it back into the round hole in the table.
When I was younger, I would say it was all just tales, stories told out of boredom in the winter. But now I'm a man in my prime and I've seen many things. I don't know what was true, but if even half of it is, then what they say about this war of the gods might be true. Where do you come from that you ask these things?
From far away. So far away that such things are also just tales where I'm from. He shrugs.
The farther you are from home, the longer you don't see it. How do you know what's happening there now?
He dips a finger in the beer and absent-mindedly draws lines on the table.
Once, it was said that you might meet a god face to face once or twice in your life. My father did when he was young. He almost died from fear. He was scared he'd be chosen. It was Urd the hunter. You know how it works with gods. They walk the world looking like ordinary people. This one looked like a kid, a 12-year-old boy dressed in a mountain wolf's pelt with its fangs around his neck and a stag's antler in his hand. My old man wasn't stupid, so he immediately ran. And then an avalanche blocked his path, and the kid came sliding down on the rocks, only 3 times bigger. Light all around and animals gathering from everywhere. He looks at my father and asks, "Don't you want to be a hero in a story?" My old man said not for all the treasures in the world. Everyone knows how it ends when a god notices you and wants something from you. That's what my father told him. And the boy laughed and said, "Very well, then you won't play with me. Go." My father left and lived on, but I swear nothing interesting ever happened to him for the rest of his life. Nothing, neither good nor bad. When he went hunting, it was over by noon. Something always came out and stood in front of his arrow, neither too big nor too small, just average. He wanted to sail the sea, and it took him 5 years to finally go. They barely made it past the Spur Islands and stumbled upon a drifting, empty merchant galley, a load of goods and a few sick amitraji. They took everything and went home, nothing more to search for. He sailed one more time, and wherever they went, there was fog. They couldn't find their way unless they turned back. A few more such adventures, and that was it. No one wanted him on their ship. That was my old man's life. He went courting and was accepted immediately. The girl wasn't smart, wasn't dumb, wasn't pretty, wasn't ugly, just dull. And that's how he lived. Just the fields, the sheep, the fish, the women, and the kids. He spent his whole life just watching the rain drip from the roof, the millstones turning, or the crops growing. He started drinking out of sheer boredom. When he was dying, he said he wished something had happened to him at least once.
Nice story. Tell me, Grinaldi, where can I find a song singer?
What do you want with a song singer? Don't you have enough trouble?
I already told you who I'm looking for.
And why would a song singer know anything about them?
Because they have that power. Let's see if it's of any use.
I'll tell you something about song singers. The best ones are those smart enough not to use their power. You think the one who messed up Skifanar's manor was powerful? I'm telling you, he probably doesn't even know what he did. He got a little angry and left, and it happened on its own. And 2 days later, he lost his knife and got mad at himself, so now he's probably a clump of that vine. That's how it is with their songs of gods. We had one here who wanted girls not to be able to resist him. A simple thing, a golden song of gods, the kind they tell tales about. If he looked at one, murmured something, she'd love him. He found some wandering, one-eyed old beggar who said he'd teach him. Then he went to the charm spots. Normally, charm spot would kill a man, but he made it through. He received his song of gods. He just forgot to learn how to send it back. The enchanted women crowded around his house, hung from the apple trees, but couldn't be driven away. He finally ran off, and the women's relatives caught him, strangled him, slit his throat, threw him in a swamp, and staked him down. But those women are still waiting for him. You can't even take them away by force. They're old now, but they're still waiting. They stand by the road and watch. No, brother, the songs of gods are for the gods. A man can't control them. Some people take song singers on their ships. Let them turn enemy arrows aside or protect everyone from fire or bring the wind. They rarely come back. You won't even find the planks of such a ship, because you see, an arrow that changes its flight has to go somewhere. The wind that comes when called will bring a storm or calm in 2 days. A song singer bends the lines of fate, and soon after, everything knots up. Everything you twist this way comes back twice over and in an even worse form, or the world around you turns monstrous. Nothing comes for free.
I just want to see one. I want to understand what it is. Grinaldi takes another sip and scratches under his cap. With his fiery beard and yellow hair, he should look like a clown, but he doesn't make such an impression. I guess I've gotten used to it. He's a nice guy, but he cannot help me. I won't find them. I need a lead, a trail, and I've got nothing. I need a hypothesis, a working explanation. Without it, I'll just stand around with my mouth open, staring at stranger and stranger events. I'm searching for 4 people among thousands on a wild continent. Millions of hectares of forests, mountains, and moors. Thousands of settlements and no map. There are no documents, no authority. A person is named whatever they introduce themselves as. Here, if no one remembers you, it's as if you never existed. Around our table, people keep passing by. People who, from the local perspective, are dressed oddly and don't speak the language. Here comes a giant with stretched earlobes and raised scar patterns on his copper-colored cheeks, wearing nothing but an embroidered vest and billowing trousers. A moment later, someone else walks by, shrouded in a white robe that covers their entire body. They are very tall and thin, but it's impossible to tell their gender. The slit in their turban is veiled by a beaded mesh, obscuring even their eyes. From the mass of white folds, only one skinny hand emerges, clutching a carved bone staff topped with a red tuft of hair. No one pays them any attention. My scholars would need to drive in here with a pink '57 Cadillac to get noticed. There's just too much going on.
Come back with us,
Grinaldi suggests.
If you don't find your people, spend the winter at my place. We'll sail up the Dragorina to the land of fire. Maybe Atleaf will want you to stay at his hall.
I smile. We'll see.
Not many of us are returning this year,
He says unexpectedly.
We sailed out with 3 ships, 3 fine Trakens, 50 men each. We're coming back with 1 and only 20 men. It won't be a joyful homecoming.
I raise my eyebrows, but he finishes his drink in one gulp and says nothing more. I leave him for now and go searching for something. I'm not even sure what. I've been taught a lot of things. I can communicate in 6 of the local languages. I can see in the dark, and I could even track them by scent if it hadn't been 2 years. I stroll among the stalls. There are more and more of them. Alongside the permanent wooden structures with roofs, where locals trade, Carts have been set up, selling furs, weapons, jewelry, nails, and all sorts of things. On the meadow, which was empty this morning near the river's mouth, tents and pens for cattle and horses are now standing. In the fjord, new wolf ships appear every moment. They furl their louvered sails, drop anchor, and dock wherever they can. The crowd grows thicker by the second. Bonfires blaze, drums beat, and songs fill the air. Wherever I look, even on the distant opposite shore, sailors are pitching tents. It only takes 2 trestles for laying the mizzenmast, on which they rest the boom and throw the sail over the top. Armed groups patrol the shore and camp boundaries, ensuring no sailor brings heavy weapons into the town. They themselves are laden with gear: helmets, shields, spears, axes, swords, armor. The full armor clinks menacingly and gleams in the afternoon sun. Now the crowd has grown dense enough that I have to push my way through the stalls. I keep looking around, scanning the hundreds of faces, men and women, with white, copper, greenish olive, and bluish-gray skin. I register thousands of braids, beards, mustaches, ponytails and hairstyles, and tattoos. I see eyes filled with brown, blue, or black. Not quite human. I listen to thousands of words in several languages. I'm tracking. Almost unconsciously, but I know that it's enough to hear a familiar word or see a human eye with a round iris bordered by white, a round face, a bulbous nose, or protruding ears. The places that could be considered permanent stores, inns, or exchanges are where the houses line up along the quay, right on the edge of the fjord. These are dark, timbered rooms filled with goods or set with heavy tables. The most serious merchants reside here. They sit on stools in front of their exchanges or on the pier, drinking beer, chatting, or playing board games. Single slaves, horses, or cattle are bought in the square. That's where retail happens. Here, they deal in herds. Dozens of people, entire shiploads of goods. It shows. Here an elderly gentleman is sitting on a barrel, squinting at the wolf ships gliding down the river. His neighbors are bustling around the stalls, rolling out barrels of beer where the thirstiest throats are, roasting chickens and fish, or haggling over goods from across the sea. There's plenty of shouting and drama, a quarrel over every horse, every ring of wax, every lump of perfume, or engraved dagger. But there, only copper coins and thin silver sheets exchange hands. They pass fistfuls of small change. Shells, at most marks and shekels. It's different here. He doesn't even bother to move. He sits and slices small pieces of cheese with a knife. But just look at the embroidered silk of his tunic, the shoes adorned with silver, the bundles of expensive amulets from all over the world, the opalescent silver fur cushioning his seat. Look inside the store, at the goods covered with cloth, at the precisely crafted scale of polished gold, silver, and bone, which he keeps within reach. That's what he weighs gold and precious stones with. Here, heavy crowns, denarii, and gwishts jingle. Look at the men slipping through the shadows of the shop, never letting go of their axes, keeping a close eye on him. More of them lurk behind the house, where the goods are stored. All it takes is one whistle. Look at the small, heavy doors made of thick planks, covered with iron fittings and brads. They're barred with a peg, meaning they close on their own, with just a kick to the block. Huge hooks hold the monstrous bolt. Because here, entire herds of animals are sold, princesses kidnapped on the other side of the world are traded, regalia and magical swords are exchanged. Here, entire ships and wagons of goods switch owners. Over there, on the square, sailors and helmsmen handle their business. Here, styresmen come to trade. That's why he sits there so carefreely while the rest of the town sweats to make the most of this one harvest of the year, the autumn fair. When the wolf ships return full of loot, and the hungry and homesick sailors arrive with belts full of silver, the whole settlement rolls up its sleeves and dives into making money. With whatever they have. A pot, a barrel of beer, hands, mouths, or a certain body part. You can make a profit with anything during the autumn fair. Only these dozen gentlemen sit in the afternoon sun, waiting for the customers to come to them. There's no police station here, no king either. The greatest authority is these men sitting on carved stools made of fragrant wood. If anyone knows anything in this town, it's them. I find an inn. A dark shack with a few benches outside. They're almost empty. Over by the river's mouth, you have to fight your way to a beer barrel, waving a horn and jingling coins. But here, a jug of beer costs 12 choplings, a prohibitive price, the equivalent of 4 jugs and a few lamb legs over there. Finally, "Innkeeper, a beer please." I toss down a whole mark. I buy it and sit like them, watching the ships sail down the river, maneuvering to avoid crashing into rowboats full of sailors from the moorings on the opposite bank, and with increasing difficulty, trying to find a place to dock. The beer here is indeed much better, but still it's neither Karlovačko, Heineken, nor Tiski. You can't tell what each merchant does. I sit and try to figure out who among them is the most powerful. Who would I want to talk to if I were a scientist stranded in a foreign culture? The scholars didn't take all the money from the station. Did they forget? Didn't need it? Were they fleeing in a hurry? Did they think they had enough and didn't want to bother with the box of diverse coins from the lab? These people sitting on the quay are the elite. Even if my castaways didn't seek their help, any valuable news must have reached here. And that's the commodity I want to buy. I sip my beer and make a show of grimacing. I light my pipe and play with a heavy gold gwitched. It's the size of a €5 coin, only 3 times thicker. About 300 grams of gold. If I sold it in a międzycznika in Var, I could have a good boozy dinner. Well, maybe 2. Here, you could live on it for half a year. The poorly crafted coin isn't great for juggling. I roll it between my knuckles and make it flip to my pinky and back. It's one of those endlessly repeated exercises that, according to Levison, prepared me for learning knife fighting. I'm attracting attention. That's the point. No one will attack me here. Not on this quay, among the elegant boutiques of respected merchants. The ships in the fjord are getting more and more helpless. Shouts, frantic sail maneuvers, oars, curses. There's no help for it, boys. You're in deep trouble. You'll have to beach the ship. It's hard work, but nothing compared to the excruciating job of digging it out and towing it back to the sea. You could go further upriver, but the current is stronger there, and the bottom is shallower and rocky. Not that is a big deal. Wolf ships can sail in shallow water and river currents. In our sailing season, just docking in port is a serious business. Here, it's complete anarchy. They probably haven't even invented Port Fess yet. I've got time. I play with the piece of gold. Then I leave the expensive beer in the jug and enter one of the exchanges. "May the gods bless you, but may they not notice you, good sir," I call, still absent-mindedly playing with the gwitched. I examine the original weapons hanging on the walls, the bundles of expensive furs that look like the ghosts of snow foxes. The air is filled with the scent of some exotic spices and fragrant resins. He stands and smiles slightly, hiding his hands under his arms. He stands in the doorway, blocking my exit. In the back of the house, behind a pile of iron-bound chests, 2 sweaty men, smelling of freshly drunk beer, rise from their stools and clutch short, close-combat axes. I don't see them. One has acid reflux. The other limps slightly on his left leg. Maybe his boot is too tight.
"Well said, stranger,"
he says softly.
"Do you want to buy something from Smoked Ola?"
Someone told me you have doing items, but I'm talking about the real ones. Things that come from far away and actually do.
Go to the square. It's full of people selling those. Ask the sailors. Raiders bring all sorts of things and don't even know what they are. I don't deal in that crap.
I need something special, and I've already seen the square. I came from far away, but even I know valuable things aren't sold at stalls. I'm looking for something that didn't just show up this year.
Then go 2 houses down, where Gruel Straw Dog lives. Maybe he'll have something. Is that a gold gwitched?
I perform a simple palming trick with the coin and blow on my fingers. I show him an empty hand. No trade, no gold. I turn to leave, but pause in the doorway. And you know, Smoked Ula. Do you know who sells special slaves? I'm looking for 2 foreign women, one taller than a tall man but thin, with hair like straw, and the other of normal height, but with hair the color of soot, curled like a ram's fleece. I describe the rest of the surviving expedition, not forgetting to mention the blind, fish-like eyes that still see. and the rough speech, and that they might be mistaken for madmen or song singers. He pulls a stool closer and sits in front of me, looking at me with eyes like drops of tar, from which I can't read anything. I perch on the table, where sordid trinkets are piled in wooden boxes. There's one more thing every good merchant has, and I'd pay gold for it too. It's news. News about the people I described to you. Maybe they showed up here or elsewhere. Maybe they sold or did something unusual. Or maybe they were sold. You know what, smoked Ula? I'll give you this gwisht, as an advance. If you don't find anything out, you'll return it to me. I smile sweetly, showing all my teeth like a wolf. Then I toss the coin at the timbered wall. It's not that difficult. It's really just a matter of stabilizing the throw and initial speed, and wrist control. You also need to know that gold is a soft metal. The coin won't cut through the wood fibers. But if you throw it at a vertical plank, it will wedge between the fibers. It makes an impression, though. The gentlemen from the next room trample each other in the doorway, but freeze at the sight of the raised hand of the store owner.
Spice beer.
Smoked Ula orders.
Cold. Straight from the well.
So we're friends now. We sip a clear drink in which expensive spices almost succeed to kill the smell of yeast. Ula pulls out a knife, and after a while, he manages to pry the gwisht from the beam. He examines it carefully, then tosses it on the scale and taps the basalt weights.
If you pay me again in the future, don't stick everything into the walls,
he mutters. He then leads me through narrow passages between huts, where it smells of urine, and the rotting planks squelch underfoot in the mud. Then he tells me to wait. I stand in a small alley, listening to dogs barking behind the palisade of the manor, and wonder melancholically if anything is happening or if smoked Ula is trying to cheat me. Finally, one leaf of the gate opens, and they invite me inside. In the courtyard, a few fruit trees grow, with a couple of chairs and a table set on the grass. Smoked Ula waits in the company of a friend, a wrinkled old man with an Adam's apple sticking out from his sagging neck, so prominent you could hang a hat on it. This is Malfast Flying Stone, a respected man who knows everything about strange slaves.